Hey guys, this is Assassin Parks, and I'm the Supreme General of the clan Ironwrath. And like other clan leaders in-game, we tend to recruit new players periodically. And we run into the issue of always having to repeat ourselves each time we get a new player in teaching them how to play the game, not correctly, but in the most beneficial way to each player. And this gets a little tiring because us vets have become displacent. It's been several years that we found ourselves starting out in Darkfall, anew and learning the game for ourselves. And so, playing so many years, we've kind of forgotten how hard it is and the struggle that new players may run into. And so instead of having to repeat myself every time and other SGs having to repeat themselves, I'm going to make a video tutorial list, so multiple parts, multiple videos of starting from A to Z on basically what you should know in Darkfall. You don't have to follow what I say, but I think my video list may help you maybe understand the game better. Let's meet the Maham, or the Wolf. They are the tallest race with the longest melee reach. And what this means is, when combating other races in the game, they tend to have to look down because they're the tallest. And because they're looking down, their longest melee reach is shortened a little bit in this game. Looking up actually gains some melee reach. So small races looking up at this big Maham, they're actually going to gain a little bit of reach on the Maham. So it kind of evens things out how the game creators made the game. But let's move on. The Maharims are allied to orcs. And the Maharims, they can craft and ride Tribland bears. And they can also craft the legendary one-handed sword called Ghostclaw. They have two racial abilities, and they are Maham Endurance, which gives a maximum health increase of +5, and Maham Hunt Speed, which gives a faster base run speed. In this game, we have Basic Run and we have Sprint Run. So, alongside all of the races, let's say we're racing all of the races in the game, and they all have Sprint on, well, the Sprint is going to take their stamina away from them, but they're going to be running really fast, obviously. The Maham can run this race without having to touch his stamina at first, and basically be almost the same speed as all other races without even having to press the sprint button. And when all the other races have depleted their stamina, the wolf can then turn on his sprint speed and basically win the race. Alright, so what else do we need to know about the Maham? Well, they kind of have a funky hitbox. Yes, they're the biggest race and they have the biggest hitbox, but it's a little funky, and their strafe speed tends to be really fast and kind of OP. So a lot of players like this race, and a lot of players don't like it. Because they're so tall, they have a natural affinity for casting AoEs at other players kind of easily because they're looking down, and when you're casting an AoE spell, it's an area effect, so you're going to kind of land the spells right where you're looking, whereas small races, they aren't as tall and they have a harder time landing AoEs where they'd like to actually land the spell. So, this is the Maham, and let's move on. Orcs. They are allied to the Maham. Orcs are the third tallest race in the game, making AoE spells easy for them to land, and they may be bulky. They're the second bulkiest character in the game, but their hitbox tends to be a little funky, and the bulkiness isn't too bad. They offset each other. They have a racial mount called Death Pigs, and they can craft a legendary great axe called Aldaruk. Their two racial abilities are Orcish Toughness, which adds 5 health points to their build, and Orcish Brutality, which adds 3 points of bonus damage when wielding great axes. What you need to know about great axes, though, is they should be compared to great swords, the most used weapon in the game. Great swords are a little faster than great axes, and they have a little bit longer reach. But great axes have a naturally higher damage, and when added the orcish brutality, they could do a lot of damage, especially when an orc does a power attack with the great axe. It's gonna hurt all of the races pretty bad if you have a strong melee game. Humans have a medium-sized hitbox and a medium to a long melee reach. They are allied to dwarves and Mrdanes. They ride warhorses and can craft a legendary greatsword, Lightbringer. They have two abilities, which are Human Ingenuity, which gives a 50% longer nourishment buff to food, and Human Willpower, which increases max mana by plus 10 points. This is one of the most used characters, or races in the game, and that's because they have kind of a small hitbox, like I said, and kind of a long melee reach. Also, people like the extra mana, and they like the extra food buff that they get. So instead of having a piece of food last for only 2 minutes, it's going to last for an extra minute, giving it 3 minutes total. Mrdane, the second tallest race in the game, and one of the most slender races. They have a long melee reach, and they are allied to humans and dwarves. Their racial mount is called an Eridan cat, and this is like a great white tiger. They can craft a legendary bow called the Sun Bow. And one of their racial abilities isn't really working right now, and that's called Alpha Sight. It's supposed to be able to allow you to see other players before they see you, and you're supposed to ID them so you know who they are. This just isn't working right now. Hopefully they fix it. Their other ability is Mrdane Insight, which gives 10 extra mana. So you might be a little disappointed that they kind of don't have they only have one racial ability right now, but don't let that fool you. Them being so tall makes AoE spells very easy to land, and because they're so thin, it makes it so other players have a harder time hitting your hitbox. Another thing about Mrdanes is there's a spell called Begone, and we use Begone mostly in the water, and that's for moving around the water quicker. And for some reason, Mrdane's water begoning is insanely OP, and this makes for good pirating. Alright, so let's move on to another race. Dwarves are the shortest and widest race. They have a medium melee reach, but actually I have to stop there and say their melee actually feels really smooth in this game. So if you're a strong melee player, this might be a deciding factor for you if you're deciding between the dwarf and some other race. Let's move on. They are obviously allied to the humans and the Mrdanes, and they ride sturdy ram-like beasts known as Garmirs. And they can craft legendary great hammers called Ildahammer. They actually have 3 racial abilities, so 1 extra than all other races. One of them is Dwarven Durability, which increases max health by 5 points, and Dwarven Steelmaster, which increases durability when crafting armor up to 10%. So, they have a natural affinity to get a higher durability armor piece than all their races. So, let's say you're a human and you craft a full plate helm, and it gives you a maximum of 60 durability. Well, the dwarf is going to be able to make maybe like a 66 durability helm. Alright, so let's go on to their third ability. Now this ability is not a passive one. You actually have to push it to use it. Alright, and this is called Dwarven Perseverance. So, what happens when you use this skill? You actually stop using so much stamina when swinging your melee weapon. So, like I said in the beginning, dwarves actually feel pretty smooth in melee. And now if you use this racial ability, you're not going to be using up as much stamina as all other races when meleeing them down. But this is going to take a big chunk of your mana pool out automatically. As soon as you push this button, you're going to lose a big chunk of your mana. So you need to know when to use it in the right circumstances. Let's talk a little bit more about the dwarves. Because they're so bulky, it's hard for other players to get around you. So if you have a strong melee game, this might be the tune to go, because they're kind of like linemen in football. It's hard to get around them, and you can kind of block them off from doing circles around you. And, well, if you block them, that means they're close to you, and you could just melee the hell out of them, right? What else about the dwarves, besides them looking kind of funky and cool at the same time? The dwarven male, their back. Don't give your back to anybody if you choose this character, because their back is a big, easy target. For some reason, their hitbox is really squishy in their back. But if you're facing forward to your enemies, your hitbox is actually a little funky, and making them again a good kind of melee rusher tune. So keep that in mind when choosing all your races. And we're going to go on to the Alfar next. Alfars, they are the smallest race. They are narrow and they are short. And they have a short melee reach, meaning they kind of have T-Rex arm syndrome in melee. So if you're going to use them and you're going to play melee, you got to be up on people's junk. Alright? So keep that in mind. But let's move on. They have no racial alliances, meaning that they could kill every other race in the game without receiving an alignment infraction. Alignment in this game works like this. Everybody starts good. They start with a positive 10 points. And they're all allowed one free kill of the same race or same racial alliance. So Alfars, if they kill another Alfar, it's okay. They're good. They're going to go rogue for 2 minutes because they hit them. Rogue means they're going to go gray and you can't go into a newbie city for a couple minutes. But if they kill a second Alfar, then they're going to go evil. And they're going to be kicked out of newbie cities and they're going to be sent to chaos cities. Chaos cities are kind of like newbie cities, except anybody could attack you at any time, and you could attack anybody at any time. It's just kind of the wild, wild west, and each chaos city kind of has their own rules. It's like, hey, we're the biggest, baddest clan here, so you're going to follow our rules, and if you follow our rules, then you're cool with us. So if you're just a single one-man guy, you might not want to be going around killing other Alfars. Let's go back to other races really quick and touch up on that. So racial alliances. Now, the same thing goes for them. They can't kill other same race people, and they can't kill other allies. So if you're a Maham, you can't go around killing orcs and think you're going to stay blue. No, you're going to go evil, and you're going to go be living in a chaos city with an Alfar that killed other Alfars. Alright, let's get back on topic with Alfars. Actually, let's go back one more second. I'm very sorry. So, if you do go evil and you want to go good again, you're going to have to go to chaos cities anyways, and you're going to have to pray at churches for a couple thousand gold each day, and you only get 2 points. And killing someone, it's like a -7, and if you gank them, it's like another extra -2 points or something like that. So, if you get a few kills of the same race or same racial alliance, you're probably going to be praying for your entire life and you're never going to go back blue. So keep that in mind. Most PKs are player killers. They're going to go Alfar because they could kill all other races and not get that negative infringement on their alignment. Okay, let's get back to the Alfars. These guys have a racial mount called the Shogun Drakes. These are basically little dragons that they ride around on. They're pretty cool looking, actually. And they can craft the halberd called Ilshard. And they have 2 racial abilities. One being Alfar Cunning, which adds an extra 10 points to mana. And Alfar Resilience, which adds an extra 3 points to Acid Protection. Acid Protection is one of those things in the game that's meh. A lot of people don't use acid spells in this game for some reason. That may change as the game progresses, and it might be actually good to have. Alright, so what else can I tell you about the Alfars? Because they're so skinny, they're kind of hard to hit sometimes. And because they're so short, it's kind of hard to land your AoE spells where you kind of want to land them. Um, but they're good for running in and out of buildings. You could actually run through windows where other races they kind of get caught up on stuff, and they have to crouch in and out of windows and stuff like that. Whereas the Alfar can easily jump through them, so you can kind of be more of like a little ninja. Um, what else can I say about the Alfars? Other than them being pretty cool and be able to kill everybody, uh, their melee game kind of sucks. So if you go them, I would say maybe you have a better chance of being a mage or an archer or something. Or, I don't know. Just have fun, man. Before I end this first video tutorial, I wanted to go over your starting locations. You're given 3 choices, and they all surround the capital city. And you cannot select the capital city right off the bat. You have to start at one of the first newbie zones. And I would suggest getting the one that's the closest to the capital, because you're going to want to make your way to the capital city pretty early. Yes, you could pick up a few starter quests in the newbie city, and then you're going to want to go to the capital city, because that's where you could buy all the skills and spells. Now, there are a few skills that you can't buy. You have to buy them at player-made cities. Um, and these are stat skills. So, strength, intelligence, wisdom, stuff like that, dexterity. You're gonna have to buy those at a player city, but that's a long ways from now. So just choose a place and then make your way to the capital city to buy all your spells and skills eventually. All right. And like I said, if you go red or evil, you could still buy all the skills at the capital city at a chaos city. Just be careful when taking out your gold, because someone might run up and kill you. Alright? So let's play the game and have fun, and I'll get to the next tutorial video.